Honestly, right now, football feels like a commercial sport.
That what it did. I'm sorry. I apologize on behalf of all of America because it's our fault. Like, we're the standard. Everybody wants to be like us. And the corporations and FIFA and UEFA and Premier League, all these corporations see how much money that the NFL is making, how much money the NBA is making, all these American sports, and they want to do the same thing we do and like commercialize the sport and actually make money. What's up, man? It's the Bronco at the front coming at you with another reaction video. Football historian in the building. Go subscribe to him. Go like up the original video. Go get this man at 25,000 subscribers we have. Which football era was truly the best? Now, obviously, I feel like this is very subjective. Is it subjective or objective? Whichever one is very opinion based, is really gonna be based off of whichever thing you grew up on. If you grew up in the 80s, you're gonna be like, bro, my era was the best. We had Maradona and this and that. If you grew up in the 60s and 70s, you're gonna say that era was the best because you had Pele and Eusebio and all the rest of them folk. You grew up in Johan Cruyff. I got my year timelines mixed up. If you're Endrick, you know, you grew up in the 2010s, but your damn favorite player is Bobby Charlton back in the 60s or whatever. But basically, the point is, whatever era you grew up in, that's what you're gonna say is best. Now, I know a lot of that go like, boo, we grew up with Lionel and Cristiano. Those are the two best players of all time, so obviously, our era is the best. Like I said, it's only based on whether you grew up in, whatever era you grew up in. That's why I'm very interested to see what Mr. Football Historia has to say. Let's see what goes down.
The 90s, 2000s, 2010s, 2020s. 4 eras of football.
Oh, so he not even go behind the 90s. He say old school day not even worth tracking. Damn, that crazy. Sorry to Maradona and them.
Each believing they could be the best. But when it gets down to it, which era of football really dominated the game then? Let's start with the 90s. To be fair, it's very hard to mention 90s football without mentioning players from Serie A, because that's where all the action was at.
Yeah, that's
the best way to introduce football from this period is wild.
Hey, that's still live as hell to me how the powers shift decade through decade. So in the 90s, the powers was in the Serie A. In the 2000s, wasn't it still in the Serie A? Or was it shared between like the Serie A and La Liga? 2010s was the La Liga for sure, right? No, the 2000s had to be the La Liga. And the 2010s was La Liga. Well, like, first half and then the latter half turned into, like, the Premier League. In 2020, is still the Premier League, so.
It had everything from crazy haircuts to questionable fashion choices we still agreed with. Some proper moments, too. And the start of revolutionary changes in the game. You still can't get away from the crazy moments, too, because at that period, the players seemed to play for the fun of the game, more than the money involved. A lot of leagues started to take shape, too. The Premier League was rebranded in 1992, featuring the 20-system league phase with 9.
So I already know that he probably not go say that the 2010s era is the best just because of the fact that on how football has turned. Well, like I say, you got to split 2010s in the middle. After Nel and Ronaldo left the La Liga, it turned into a new era, and like things like Pep started dominating the game when it came to robot tactics and stuff versus the magic that the game used to be played with.
19 home and away matches. The Champions League was also rebranded as well. That's when it got the official name of the Champions League, after it was previously called the European Cup. But all of this is just formalities into what competitions look like. We're here to talk about football, and in that period, it was crazy. Some of the names in the game at that time gave the sport a crazy aesthetic feel to it. I could call a couple of names that made various leagues across the world come to life. Eric Cantona at Manchester United, Dennis Bergkamp at Arsenal, Zinedine Zidane at Juventus, the emergence of R9, Ronaldo Nazario. We'll talk about the quality of defenders and attackers that existed in this period.
Bro, I feel like the stars these days and ain't really is the sport lacking stars right now? Like, who are the aside? I'm talking about for 2010s, this new era. I'm not talking about Messi, Ronaldo, them. I'm not talking about that era. I'm talking about this new era. The only true stars that I would actually say is Mbappe, Haaland, Vinny Jr. Lamine Yamal. And that's it, bro. That's it. I feel like they're like the only 4 stars. This new generation, bro. Yeah, bro. The stars kind of lacking.
Period. But the early point with this is that the game at the time was full of so many mavericks. In Italian football, they were in excess. You think about Italian football and the likes of Paolo Maldini come up. Nesta, Dida, Cafu, all these names, legends of the sport. They were full on into their careers at the time. Or the likes of Gabriele Batistuta or Il Divine Codino. The Divine Ponytail, Roberto Baggio. Paul Gascoigne was another one who lit up the scene for England during that period. But if we're being fair, the 90s was a period dominated by attacking football. Because in this era, we witnessed some of the best strikers to ever play this game.
Oh, yeah.
Alan Shearer, the already mentioned Batistuta, Ronaldo Nazario, Filippo Inzaghi, Andriy Shevchenko, Andy Cole, Ian Wright, Patrick Kluivert, George Weah, Alessandro Del Piero, Marco van Basten, Hristo Stoichkov, Romario. I haven't even gone halfway through the list of proper attacking forces yet.
The striker position has completely 100% fell off. What are the striker these days? Old washed up Lewandowski? Haaland, Gyökeres? Isak is proper. I ain't gonna disrespect Isak. Dusan Vlahovic? Like, what the hell that happened? Darwin Nunez? Nicholas Jackson? Bro, what the hell happened to the striker position?
It's already this long. The attackers on display in the 90s were a mix of everything you'd want from your attacking unit. They combined flair with technical ability, speed, dribbling, power, and precision. It was a remarkable period for football, and a transitional one for the game as well. But was the 90s really the best period the game has witnessed? Well, we've got to compare what existed then with the other eras. And up next is the 2000s.
Okay, so I still haven't heard a specific point on how he's comparing the eras. So I'm assuming he just go point out each era's high points and then compare which point has the highest. And I'm assuming the 2010s is because of the fact that Messi and Ronaldo is the 2 greatest players of all time. So that's my prediction on what he gonna say.
Before we get into that era, though, at Football Historia, we're committed to bringing you more quality content like this. And just need you to hit that subscribe button to the channel only. Honestly, it just feels like the 2000s were the peak era for the game.
Oh, really?
The 2006 World Cup might be the reference point for that, because the number of superstars in the competition at the time was staggering. The competition hosted 12 players who had either won the Ballon d'Or or would go on to win the competition later in their careers. But this is us getting ahead of ourselves now. So how good was the 2000s era of football? Well, it was magical. I mean, think about it. The oversized kits, the aesthetics, no technology to ruin the game.
Aesthetics.
And the sport had players-sized kits. The
that boy used to be in gymnastics,
no technology to ruin the game. And the sport had players who developed a pure passion for the game. Ronaldinho remains one of the best footballers of all time, and he graced the game, particularly in the 2000s. The point with him is, some of the stuff he did on a football pitch was simply magical.
Hey, shout out Ronaldinho. He the one who got me into the game. When I reacted to his skill comp, I immediately knew I was here to stay. Yeah, the 2000s got the best of both worlds. They got the remnants of the 90s players, and they also got the blooming of the 2010 players.
And the best part is, Ronaldinho was just one of many examples. See guys, in the 2000s, it was almost as if every team playing back then had that one player who could flip the switch and turn on the style. Players like Ronaldinho, Zidane, Kaká, Henry, Andrea Pirlo, Paul Scholes, Raul, Cristiano Ronaldo, and Lionel Messi. I'm not just calling names now. These are players who proved to be worth the cut in this era of the game. Perhaps one of the best features of this era that made the game that exciting was the mixture of different styles and teams across the world. Take, for instance, Manchester United, under Sir Alex Ferguson in English football. They were the team to beat. Then Arsene Wenger introduced a more sophisticated approach to the English game that saw Arsenal become the first and only team to go unbeaten in an entire season in the Premier League. But only a season later, Jose Mourinho arrived at the English game, and his resilient Chelsea team and his us-against-them mentality turned Chelsea into a dominant force.
So the 2000s, yeah, it sounded like the 2000s was the Premier League. And then 2010s went to the La Liga, and then it went back to the Premier in 2020.
To back Premier League titles. It was happening in the rest of Europe too. Real Madrid, on their part, had reassembled under President Florentino Perez, a culture that had been asleep for over 30 years. The early re-emergence of the Galacticos, the likes of Ronaldo Nazario, Zidane, Beckham, Roberto Carlos, all in one team. AC Milan continued.
Whoa, you gonna skip over Figo?
Beckham, Roberto Carlos, all in one team.
What that boy got against Luis Figo?
Of Ronaldo
he was a superstar. He gonna skip over Ronaldo and go straight to Zinedine, bro. Like, Figo is right here.
Beckham, Roberto Carlos, all in one team.
You gonna say Roberto Carlos but not Luis Figo? Oh, come on, though. Make me have to dislike the video football history. You better tighten up.
AC Milan continued to be a stop for some of the world's very best. Andrea Pirlo, Kaká, Andrei Shevchenko, Dida, Gattuso, hard-hitting football mixing with skill. And towards the end of this era, the emergence of Pep Guardiola's Barcelona. The team that came up and swept the rest of Europe away. 6 trophies in 2009. Still on the teams, despite the heavy-hitting forces we mentioned, the 2000s wasn't magical because the game had the occasional fairy tale run on multiple occasions. Greece won the 2004 Euros against the odds, or the Champions League final of that year. Porto won the competition, knocking out the likes of Manchester United. And what was even more interesting about this was that they faced AS Monaco in the final. Who would have thought that? Liverpool go on 1 year later to produce one of the most epic comebacks in the game's history. From 3-0 down in the Champions League final at halftime, they won the competition after drawing 3-3 and going to penalties. In Spain, back in 2002, you had Valencia winning the league and taking everyone by surprise. Despite all the attacking forces, underdogs and surprise moments still had a say in this era. As we've mentioned, it was a mix of so many different styles, and the reason we've had this many talented players was because in that period, players were allowed to play the game naturally. We'll get to how all of that has changed in the modern game soon.
Yeah, he finna turn 2010s. Well, not even 20. Yeah, he finna turn the late half of 2010s and 2020 a new asshole, boy.
But at the time, the game encouraged natural talent. Think about the likes of Messi, Ronaldinho, or players like Kaká and Zidane, and Wayne Rooney. They didn't need coaches telling them to play safe or take a maximum of 3 touches on the ball. And that's because the coaches they played under understood that these players had natural ability and created systems that allowed them to simply do their thing. Honestly, I could go on and on talking about the 2000s because it was magical. But after this era came the 2010s. And in this phase, the game changed. You can't mention the 2010s without mentioning Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi, because these two dominated this era for years. The goals they scored, the records they broke. Messi hit 91 goals in a calendar year in 2012. Ronaldo became the Champions League all-time top scorer, posting incredible numbers as the year progressed. El Clasico became peak football because of these two. It was quite arguably the greatest rivalry between two individuals the game has ever seen.
League was on top.
But what gave the vibe to this era was the emergence of players the younger generation could connect with. The likes of Eden Hazard, Neymar, Gareth Bale, Karim Benzema, Luis Suarez, Edison Cavani, Marco Verratti, Luka Modric, Toni Kroos.
Yeah, so this is the generation that y'all grew up on. So I wonder, what would y'all say y'all prefer, the 2000s or the 20s? I feel like y'all gonna say the 2010s because, like I say, these are all the stars that I recently more hear about just because, you know, it's more recent, obviously. But this is where a lot of y'all, this is nostalgic for y'all.
Aguero, Gerard Piqué, Arjen Robben, Frank Ribery, Sergio Ramos, Marcelo, Robert Lewandowski. Footballers in the more recent times who are equally as impressive. In looking at the 2010s as an era, it started off with excitement, but ended with controversy.
I knew it!
The 2010 World Cup remains one of the best, and here's the catch. Not necessarily because of the football, but everything else apart from this. From those epic World Cup sounds to the ball itself, the Jabalani, or the octopus, the first to be held in Africa.
Actually, no, I lied. I didn't hear it was born. Because of the ball, I heard that it turned shit crazy. They was hitting all types of slobber knockers because of the fact that the ball been different from a regular football.
Something also happened in that same competition that shapes what we see in the present day. After Lampard's ghost goal against Germany was denied, football went into action, and over the years the technology advancements in the game didn't stop. By the 2014 edition of the game, we had goal line technology introduced, a revolutionary advancement to the game, but it didn't stop there. By 2018, VAR had become a thing. First test.
And I still can't believe and wrap my head around that y'all didn't have the replay system until 2018, bro. Like, y'all are literally in the Stone Ages, or y'all were in the Stone Ages. And low-key, if I speak, I'm in trouble. Y'all know how I am. Always an advocate for rule changes. But hey,
invested in the World Cup, and the reactions weren't all that pleasing. Fans in that period began to complain about the game losing its beautiful feel and appeal, and to be fair, this wasn't just about the technology. Other factors contributed to this. Inflation had become a serious thing in the game now. Let's go back to what we said about Ronaldinho's transfer to Barcelona from PSG. It was a €32 million transfer, and at the time, for a player of his quality, that was a pretty solid deal. Fast forward to 2017, and another Brazilian was involved in a switch between both clubs. This time the other way around, and the numbers involved were staggering.
200 million,
Neymar
right?
cost PSG 222 million.
And the market still barely has even recovered now. Because Felipe Coutinho went for how much? 100 something? Then he go for like a 160, 180 or something like that. Like the butterfly effect that this Neymar move caused
€1 billion to become the most expensive player in the world. Now, it wouldn't have been that big of a problem if it was just a one-off, but in this same era, Eden Hazard transferred to Real Madrid for €100 million, Mbappe to PSG for €145 million, João Felix to Atletico Madrid for €126 million.
Hey, shout out to Denzino for subscribing on Juice. I'm not live yet. I'm finna go live a little bit later. Hey, y'all follow the Twitch. As soon as I see Sasha Broncos, But $126 million for fucking João Felix, bro. I know they still beating themselves up over there.
Philippe Coutinho to Barcelona for €120 million. Ousmane Dembele to Barcelona for €105 million.
He went for 105.
The point is, back in the 2010s, the idea of a player hitting the 100 million mark in the euro or pound currency was wild. In the 2010s alone, 5 of the 10 most expensive transfers of all time happened in this period. The football in the 2010s? It was decent. The game saw some incredible streaks along the way. Barcelona did another treble in 2015. Real Madrid did a 3-peat to the Champions League from 2016 to 2018. Leicester City did the incredible 5,000 to 1.
Hey, then why he just saying decent? This you can tell bro had to have grew up in the 2000s. He talking about some decent. These are historical crazy ass moments right here.
Winning the league title. After escaping relegation just the season before,
Leicester really
Atletico Madrid ended Barcelona and Real Madrid's dominance of La Liga. The game had shifted. Atletico Madrid ended Barcelona and Real Madrid's dominance of La Liga. The game had shifted from Italy being the league with the best players in the world to the Premier League being the best in terms of commercial excitement, and there were plans for expansions in different competitions. Which brings us to the current era, the 2020s, post-COVID. Football is still in a recovery state from the pandemic that shocked the world in 2020, and the game itself hasn't quite lived up to the same standards we saw in previous years. Why? Honestly, right now, football feels like a commercial sport.
That's what it did. I'm sorry, I apologize on behalf of all of America because it's our fault. Like, we're the standard. Everybody wants to be like us, and the corporations and FIFA and UEFA and Premier League, all these corporations see how much money that the NFL is making, how much money the NBA is making, all these American sports, and they want to do the same thing we do and like commercialize the sport and actually make money. So, apologize for us, but in terms of y'all sport, it's not really a good thing. Shit, yeah, I ain't got nothing to say. All I gotta say is I'm sorry for the things we've done.
The last 2 seasons of 5 players and how many games they played. Look at the amount of games. Do the math.
They always be like the game's gone.
Easy. They play too many games for me.
Oh yeah, hell yeah! The schedule amount of games I'll be running these damn footballers through the dirt. Get it together, man. Get these boys a break.
Thierry Henry has a point, but is his point enough to adjust the reality on the ground then? These days, we see more and more players getting injured because they play way too many games. And in turn, while clubs ideally wouldn't want to put their players through that mental and physical stress of that many matches, the revenue attached to TV and commercial streams seems like it's too much to turn down. Competitions keep expanding. The Champions League is now a single 36-team format instead of the previous 32 teams with 8 groups of 4 teams. Each team now has to play 2 extra games, making 8 instead of the former 6. We've got an expanded Club World Cup competition coming up in the summer, and in between all of this, there's still international football played which we have to think about. Put all of this together, and it's a horror show. Technological advancements in the game continue to increase as well. Semi-automated VAR is now a thing, and honestly, I'd be lying to you if I told you I could explain what it is. The system of football in the 2020s...
I mean, but at the end of the day, it makes things more accurate. Like, I mean, I guess you could want to be nostalgia just because y'all didn't grow up with replay and it's cool to like cheat your way to a victory or get a goal that wasn't supposed to be allowed. But it's more accurate. You may slow down the game, you may gotta pause the game, but do you wanna get down to the bottom of what really happened or not?
Now feels robotic. It's almost as if everyone is trying to copy this guy, Pep Guardiola. It's now become a situation where we see teams having almost the same identity as each other. Everyone wants to pass out from the back, use inverted fullbacks, keep the ball in tight spaces, and play neat touches to create openings. Minus players like Lamine Yamal, Cole Palmer, Vinicius Jr., and a few others who continue to light up the game.
Then I just tell you, remember what I said? Oh, I forgot about Jude. You remember earlier and I was like, how many true superstars are in this era? Jude definitely up there. Cole Palmer, he's not really a superstar in my eyes. He tough as hell. But in terms of stardom, he's not on the same level as Lamine Yamal, Jude Bellingham, and Vinicius Jr.
With that unpredictability, the rest of it is just predictable. Right, so now we know what the 4 eras are and how the football is like. Which one is the best then? If we hit things with the 90s,
I feel like he gonna say
the only
thousands.
possible issue to this era was that televised matches hadn't become as much of a deal as they were in the next era. And because of that, to see the best players in the game and understand how good they were, it had to be done live. With the 2010s, the inflation the game went through changed the sport. Players started going for crazy money, almost as if each team wanted to make a profit. The idea of proper ballers started to reduce. In the current era, it's just an idea of the rule makers trying to make everything so perfect that it's ruining the game. This leaves us with the 2000s, which on the basis of this video, goes down as the best era in the game's history.
Hey, shout out him for standing on business and not fence sitting and be like, you know, a lot of people will be clickbaited with titles like this, which football era was truly the best, and they'll be like, well, it's all based on what you grew up with, or well, it's all based off the preference. Bro, no, tell me which was the best. That's why I clicked on the video. And Mr. Football Historia done told me what was the best era with some facts behind it. The 2000s era.
Football was a peak sport. So many different teams, different types of players, big rivalries, emerging rivalries, fanfare and stadiums. Fans could now watch players more frequently on television, and incredible atmospheres. And the best, fans could now watch players more frequently on television, and incredible.
Look at that. He look like that. Look like a horror movie character.
Incredible atmospheres, and the best part was players were free to express their technical and creative abilities. We also have to look at the quality of players that existed in the different eras. In the 90s and 2000s, you had proper footballers, guys with unique personalities playing for different teams that set them apart. A mix of talent spread across, and it just made the game more enjoyable to watch. In the current 2020s, honestly, the players and aesthetics don't quite have the same feel. Footballers lost that original feel that made...
How many players these days really just have aesthetic when you I guess we changed aesthetic for aura. How many players these days that play today truly has aura, like in the new era players? You could throw Jude in there. Mbappe lost his aura. You could throw Vinny in there. You can throw Lamine Yamal. We know Lamine got aura. Who else? Cole Palmer. Does Cole Palmer have aura? His whole gimmick at one point was him being aura-less. So, I mean, I don't know, bro.
Made it the sport back then. Due to everything that's happened in the modern game, we unfortunately might never get an era as good as the 2000s, or a coach as legendary as Sir Alex Ferguson, who had some of his best times coaching United in this period. Sir Alex is long gone now, and there's a new man at the helm for Manchester United. Ruben Amorim is the latest man assigned with the task of trying to rebuild this Manchester United team. But so far, there's a lot to show that this might just be one big waste.
He promoted his next video?
But it's all in the next video.
I knew it. I was gonna say, he gotta be promoting his next video, because ain't no way he just singled out United like that. But hey, man, which football era was truly the best? Football Historia answered it. He said the 2000s, so it gotta be true. Let me see what they say in the comments. Somebody said 90s football. Somebody said grew up watching 2010s live and learned how magical the thousands and 90s was. Insane on how good Zinedine was. 20-year period with the 90s and 2000s. Definitely the best in football. I ain't gonna hold you. Yeah, so it looked like everybody is agreeing, bro. This dude said 90s at first, thousands. He just went in chronological order. But yeah, everybody's saying the thousands and 90s. I thought all of us saw more 2010s, but I gotta remember, I heard it go to 2010s is golden, literally. I was gonna say, I definitely thought it was gonna be more people, more kids in here who grew up in the 2010s era who, you know, would say that. But hey, man, Let me know what y'all think down in the comments, and what was y'all favorite era, or what era do y'all think was truly the best. I'm out.